Um, ah, okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about our owl banding project. It's been going on for a long time. Let me see. There it goes. About Woodland Dunes. Basically, we're 50 years old as of a couple weeks ago. Uh, Nonprofit nature center, 1,500 acres. We have four preserves now, kind of like you guys at UEC. They're fairly close together, but uh, scattered a little bit. We have about 7 miles of public trails. We're open, free to the public all the time. And I say we, I'm not officially there anymore. I'm a volunteer, but old habits die hard. Um, so forgive me for falling into that. We have very active land management and environmental education programs, just like UEC. And you can learn more at woodlanddunes.org. This is what our main preserve looks like. This, if can you all see my cursor? Uh,
Yeah.
Yes.
this
Yep.
City of Two Rivers is over here on the east side. This is the West Twin River. Um, Lake Michigan down here. This is the bulk of the main preserve, probably 1,100, 1,200 acres. This is forest in here. There are old ridges and swales that were formed by Lake Michigan several thousand years ago. Provides a really rich, diverse habitat of both dry sand ridges and interspersed wetlands. So you have a great variety of plants growing in there because it's along the shore of Lake Michigan where birds migrate. It's attractive to birds. We have a large wetland along the West Twin River, about a mile of shoreline that is also very good for birds. And our banding station, our main banding station is right here by our headquarters. We have another banding station down here, but we didn't utilize that this year. So that's kind of the layout of the place. I've been at Woodland Dunes for more than 30 years now. I was director for 20 of those. I retired this year, but I'm still out there quite a bit. They tolerate me pretty well yet. I'm the bird bander, the master bander out there, and proud dad of Emma. Both Emma and I attended UWM, and I remember being real familiar with the Riverside Park before UEC started and just as it was starting. So anyway, bird banding at Woodland Dunes has been going on for a long time. Our founder was Bernie Bruscio. He's kind of a legend in bird banding. He started banding out there in the mid 1960s when he was dreaming that someday there would be a nature preserve there. He got permission from landowners, and he found that the area, which is now Woodland Dunes, had greater numbers of birds and greater variety of species than other areas in Manitowoc County, and that's why he decided to try to get a group together and preserve some land there for birds. The first year that he banded out there, he banded more than 22,000 birds, which is amazing because right now I do several hundred birds a year. But he lived in the banding shack. He banded full time, sun up to sundown and beyond, and that's where a lot of those 30,000 birds came from. Owl banding started by accident. When Bernie was out there banding, sometimes he'd stay open late during migration season, and he was trying to band woodcocks, American woodcock, and lo and behold, he accidentally caught a saw-whet owl one night, and he started wondering about them. because they were considered extremely rare in Wisconsin. Nobody saw saw-whet owls. Uh, and he learned that some people out east were calling them into their nets using an audio lure, which is a recording of their call, and catching all kinds of them. And Bernie started doing that. And lo and behold, he caught hundreds of saw-whet owls in the course of the fall migration. And they changed the status of the bird in Wisconsin based on that. No longer were they considered rare. They're just extremely hard to see if you're not banding them. In other words, we're cheating, right? We're calling them in with recordings. At one time, Bernie had a really big banding operation for saw-whets. Like he would operate 40 nets at a time in 2 locations. He had about 40 volunteers, although he was the only bander. So they caught a lot of birds. One night they caught 72 birds between the 40 nets. And altogether, we've banded more than 5,000 saw-whets, probably closer to 5,600. About 150 of those that we banded have been recaught at other locations by other banders. And we've caught about 150 owls that were banded by others. So it's actually a pretty high percentage of birds. About the saw-whets, these are the northern saw-whet owl. There's also a southern saw-whet owl. Smallest owl in Wisconsin, about 8 inches tall. They nest in the north, although their nesting activity is not real clearly known as far as their nesting range. I know they've nested in Manitowoc County. Someone brought in a dead juvenile just right out of the nest, still in juvenile plumage, a couple of years ago. So somewhere around here they nest. They're migratory, although that's not clearly understood. Some feel that the females may migrate more than the males, that males may tend to stay on territory, and perhaps that's an advantage in spring. And their spring migration is from March to April, and that's not as concentrated as the fall migration in mainly October in Wisconsin. The peak migration used to be the 3rd week in October, and I'm kind of questioning that. That may be shifting a little bit later, but that's one of the things that we would like to look at more closely using the data that we've gathered over the years. They are cavity nesters. They raise about 4 young, and their diet is small rodents mostly. A mouse a day, Bernie always used to say, although large insects like moths might be an important food for them seasonally, and occasionally small birds. There's the little rascal giving us the stink eye. I see a lot of that when I'm handling the birds, but they're very, very interesting little guys. So why band them? To assess their populations, although there are a lot of variables involved in their migration. To find out where they go, that also varies quite a bit. They generally feel that a lot of them don't go very far south, like into Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, although we've had a bird caught in North Carolina. That's been the farthest recovery of one of our birds. Find out how long they live, and we age them. I will show you later based on their plumage. We can get an idea, but recapturing them, kind of confirms how long they might live. and to find out if those migrations are changing over time. How do you band them? We use mist nets, just like Tim. You have to be licensed. It used to be even to purchase a mist net, although now I've seen them for sale on Amazon for protecting fruit crops and things like that. I kind of think that's a horrible idea because birds can be so entangled in a mist net. It's difficult for us once in a while to extract a bird. So anyway, we attract the birds with an audio lure. We place the nets around the lure. We open nets after sunset, unless we want to ban cardinals and things like that that are active right as it gets dark. Nets are checked about every 30 minutes, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. We try not to let birds that are caught be in the net any longer than they have to be. They just get more tangled and it's more stressful for the bird. And we extract the birds from the nets, we band them, measure them, and release them immediately. So they're literally only held in captivity for a few minutes. We also, to reduce stress on the bird, want to minimize that time. When we start first week in October, we keep track of folks up north, like Hawk Ridge and Duluth, when they are catching saw-whets. We see when they start in middle of September, coming down from Canada. And we wait a couple weeks after them and then start opening our nets. We don't do it when it's raining or snowing. We don't want to endanger the health of the birds. Don't want it to be too windy, and they don't tend to migrate or move a lot when it's windy anyway. I think it's difficult for them to navigate. Best nights are cool with the wind from west to north. Northwest wind, not too strong, is often an excellent night in middle of October. Worst nights are warm nights with south to east winds. And I'm not sure why that is, but we always wondered if when there's east winds, if the birds migrate farther inland. And also, we want no evidence of larger owls around. If we hear great horned or barred owls calling outside in the area of our banding station, we will shut things down. Often that just means I could shut off the audio lure, because that's really what attracts saw-whets to our nets, and then wait until the great horns move away. This year we had both immature and adult great horns. The babies were begging for food from the adults, and they're pretty obvious to detect when they're out there. And again, we shut down, then wait for them to go away, and then we'll get things going again. We end when no more owls are caught, usually early to mid-November. Oh, and I should say we don't want larger owls around because they will prey on the saw-whet owls. They will come and take them out of the net. That's happened at other banding stations, not at ours. So what you need to do this first are some good people to help you. This is our owl banding crew with a few additions. Tim recognizes this lady. She's our education coordinator at the Nature Center, Jess Johnsrud. This is Max, the land manager. But Cindy and Mike, Kennedy Zittel is our naturalist, and she's being trained as a bird bander. And then Andrew and Jessica, they're from Milwaukee. They drive up to help with banding. Jessica has also helped at Schlitz Audubon with their raptor program, and my wife Sue. So this is just a little get together at the end of owl banding season. You need a place to do the banding, and this is our banding shed. It also doubles as our sky shed. So actually in this building, the roof slides off on these rails, and the roof opens up and there's a telescope in there. But when they're not using it for astronomy, it makes a great banding station. And we just insulated it, and it's heated just with a little space heater, but works great. And it's like a luxury to have a warm, dry place to band birds. Mist nets, this is one that's rolled up. This is a 6 meter net. Um, During the day, we keep them furled, rolled up, secured with clothespins, so we don't have any songbirds accidentally caught in there when we don't want them to be. We use the same net sets sometimes for songbirds. This brushy area where our banding station is works well for both. Got it signed off so that hopefully people don't mess with the nets when we're not there. And this has worked well. We have not had anyone that's opened the nets or anything like that. And we take them all down at the end of owl banding season. So they're up for about a month. Our audio lure is pretty simple. We run extension cords out to the banding site where the nets are. This is just an amplifier, 15-watt amplifier, my old guitar practice amp, with an MP3 player attached to it. MP3 has a male Saw-whet Owl call recorded on it. And we just bring this out there, cover it over with plastic, and turn it on. This is, the way my banding desk always looks, of course, perfectly organized. Emma knows much better than this, but theoretically, this is the way it should look. And these are the tools that we use during the banding process. The bands themselves are issued by the Bird Banding Laboratory. Each band has a unique number that has never been used before and will never be used again. And also on the top and bottom, it says reportband.com, so that people, if they find a bird with a band, can log on, get in there, report that band, and you will also tell you where the bird was banded. So it's a neat system. They're aluminum bands. There are a couple dozen different sizes of bands, different sizes corresponding to the size of birds' legs. So this is a special band for Saw-whet owls, a size 4 short. It fits on them well. It doesn't impede their movements at all. And to apply that to the bird, you need a special pliers. This is one of our faithful old banding pliers. And you can see when you open the band, it'll fit right in there. The pliers can be used to place the band. The bird's leg comes in here, and you can close the band. The ends, they call them butt end bands. They butt together on the bird and do not injure the bird. It doesn't crush the band. So it's kind of a unique thing. I suspect Tim has shown you how to use these. Here's the nets open, and Kennedy is removing a saw-whet owl. We were fortunate enough to catch one. And the first thing is always to determine which side it hit the net from. And you can see the nets are thin. They're hard for the birds to detect. It seems to be a little less effective on nights when there's a full moon and there's a lot of light, or if there's frost that clings to the nets and makes them easier to see. These birds are pretty smart at evading them. But here's Kennedy starting to take bird out. Here, if you're lucky, the bird falls into a pocket. and is sitting in that pocket in the net. Uh, and as I said, if you're lucky, you can reach down and grab the bird by the back and lift them out. And hopefully you just have feet to untangle. You have to be very careful about the feet. They have serious little talons. They will try to bite you, but their bite is kind of inconsequential compared to being footed by an owl, where they get their talons in you. This one, you can see there are a couple strands going up though. So I suspect there are strands on the wing. This bend of the wing is kind of notorious for poking through holes in the nets. And we usually have to snip a few strands here to get the what appears to be the shoulder of the bird out. Often when you're taking them out and they're trying to claw you, because they're unhappy, it's better to just let them claw you. We put them against our stomach and just let them claw at the jacket. That makes them feel better and distracts them so that we can make sure that we're getting all of the net off of them. And here's a banded owl. You can see, unlike songbirds, they are feathered all the way down to their foot. Lots of feathers on the leg. When we put the band on, we first crimp it lightly and then make sure that the band will move on the leg, that we can spin the band so that it's not too tight where it might interfere with movement. And then we crimp it a little bit more, trying not to crimp any of those feathers in there. They're very interesting. This, I'm sure, helps them keep their feet warm in cold weather. And then we take some measurements. Each one, we measure the wing chord, which is, again, measurement from what appears to be the shoulder. It's actually the wrist of the bird down to the end of the wingtip. And then the bird needs to be weighed. We actually, and I forgot to get a photo. When we bring birds back from the nets, they're in soft cotton bags, small bags that we can just lay on the scale. But I stole some pictures from other folks. We have done this where if you use a soft can, not with a sharp edge on it, cardboard can, Pringles can works really well. You can lay them in there gently and get a weight. Or this they refer to as an owl burrito. They wrap them up and just lay them on there for a second to get a weight. It's interesting, there's quite a difference in weight between these two birds, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then, most importantly, perhaps, we look at plumage. And what we're trying to do is get an age for the bird. In this example, all of the feathers are basically the same color, same shade of grayish brown. That means all of these feathers were produced at the same time, meaning that this bird was hatched this year. That's the only time that all of these flight feathers are the same age. On older birds, there are different colors, and basically that's just because the feathers fade over time. So these feathers are faded, and that means they're older than these feathers, which are darker. And this is a pretty typical molt pattern for a second-year bird. This bird is basically in his second year or her second year and is basically 1 year old or a little more. So we record the pattern of this molt on each of the birds. Here some of the coverts feathers are also a little faded compared to the others, so that reinforces that. So second year bird, and then we had some, we always catch some that are a little more complicated in their molt. So these feathers are darker up to this point, and then you have one that's an older feather, and then you have some more newer feathers, and then you have some more old feathers, maybe three here, and then some darker feathers again. So that's a very complicated molt pattern, and this bird is more than its second season. So this may be a 2+ year old bird. Well, it is. Some people are able to age the birds up to 6 years based on their molt. I'm not confident when I get beyond 2 years, so this I would put down as after second year bird. And here's another one that's a little complicated from this year. Dark feathers, lighter feathers, dark feathers all the way down to here, and then light again. So that's after second year. Saw-whet owls live probably 4, 5, 6 years in the wild. They can live a lot longer than that, like 12 years in captivity. But so that's the importance of looking at that molt. So we're determining the age. Another thing you can do as they grow, they produce porphyrin pigments which fluoresce under UV light, making this kind of pretty pinkish purple glow. And the glow is more intense on feathers that are newer. So this bird is second year bird or older. New feathers, old feathers, new feather, old feathers, and then new feathers. And these are newer also. The pigments tend to be more concentrated up here, but it's kind of fun. It just serves to reinforce your evaluation looking at the upper side of the wing in normal light. So we take information, we know the age from the plumage, and we take the measurement of the wing and the weight measurement, and they have developed a chart for determining the sex of these owls based on the combination of those factors. So if we had an owl whose wing chord was 140 millimeters and it weighed 100 grams, then that's a female. And that's the way we'll record sex. Males tend to be smaller. Their wing chords can be as long, but their weights are much smaller. So if you think back to that example that we looked at, the birds on the scale, one was 79 grams, the other was 92 grams. 79 grams is probably a male. It's way over here, even if it has a long wing chord. And 92 is out here, and if it falls in this region, it would be considered a female. And then after all that, which really only takes 5 minutes to do, the birds are placed outside. We have a nice little railing outside the banding shed. We just place the birds on there. We just let them sit there as long as they want to. Let their eyes get adjusted to the dark again, because I'm sure it's a little bit strange for them to come into such bright light when it's nighttime. So we let them, as long as they want, sit out there, and then they fly off on their own, continue their migration. And what we hope for is that either our birds that we band are caught by others, or that we catch somebody else's bird. And the first bird that we caught this year was a banded bird, banded last year just about a year prior in Peterborough, Ontario, where the World Canoe Museum is, I believe. And when you report the band to the banding laboratory, you get feedback like this. You know when the bird was banded. At that time, it was a 1-year-old bird at least, female. And then they give you this interesting map showing that the bird was banded here and went right across Lake Huron and Lake Michigan and ended up in Wisconsin. Well, that didn't really happen at all. If this bird was hatched in 22 and it was banded here in 23, well, then it finished its fall migration last year, probably going down here, over to here or here, wintered down here, went back north, maybe this way, up into Ontario, and then for some reason decided to come down this way, and we caught him. So it's interesting that owls don't seem to migrate exactly the same route from year to year. And that's one of the reasons that we banned them. Also, along with that, we had one owl this year that we caught in early October. And then 2 weeks later, we caught it again, same location. And then 2 weeks later, we caught it again. So for a full month, that bird was hanging around our preserve and wasn't migrating. We wondered, this year was not a great year for saw-whets. We only caught and banded a couple dozen of them. And I'm wondering if we had a lot of warm weather, and I wonder if they really had much incentive to migrate. I'm sure they did recently with the onset of the cold. But before that, at least that owl was hanging around, and maybe not the smartest owl in the world if he gets caught repeatedly. But by the last time he was caught, or she was caught, she was not very happy about the process anymore. That was the feistiest owl that we had all year. So fortunately, we didn't, we re-verified the weight and things like that, but then let her go right away. So in addition to banding owls, there are some bonus experiences, I call them, with being out at night in wild areas in Wisconsin, as you probably all know. Other owls this year, in addition to saw-whets, and when we turn on our recording, often the saw-whets will call back. Females have a different call than males. We turn on the male call, and female owls will call back. So we heard them. We had screech owl. We had a barn owl, which is really unusual for Wisconsin, and both juvenile and adult great horned owls. Once in a while, you hear coyotes. Sandhill cranes are often taking off for the night. Or gathering in the marsh, that's not too far away. We caught a flying squirrel in our net this year, first one we've ever recorded at our nature center. And you see raccoons, and last year there was a skunk that liked to hang around the net lanes. It must have been a good place to hunt. So that was a little dicey, but all kinds of interesting things. And then there were some really cool astronomical events this year. This was about the time that we were first opening in, around the 10th of October, I think this was. Really spectacular northern lights like I haven't seen since I was young. These were directly overhead. And that was just wonderful. So we also had some company from those astronomers. They were coming out to photograph northern lights. This is Kennedy getting a photo off our observation tower platform. So that was special. Also, there was a lovely comet in the evenings. Again, the astronomers were coming out, so we had a lot of company this year when we were owl banding, and they did some programs around the appearance of this comet. Atlas, and I forget the rest of the name, but um, it's an enjoyable experience. One thing I forgot to do was to play you an example of the Saw-whet Owls song. It's kind of monotonous, at least the male song, and it sounds like somebody whistling. And here it is. So we have a recording of that going constantly. And by the end of a month, you're hearing that in your sleep. And you do get the occasional, sometimes you don't realize how far sound carries. And we get comments from neighbors a mile away, what, you're banding owls, aren't you? They hear that crazy call at night. And this is one of the calls that the females make calling back. So we'll hear that in response to our call. Here's another really eerie one that they make. When you hear that in the forest, you feel like you're being haunted or something. So thank you. And I haven't been looking at questions, but we can certainly do that if you have any.